It is family weekend, ladies and gentlemen, in Tucson, and we're celebrating the only way we know how, with all of our closest friends and family, you, here in the chat, and also Becky Burke coming up live at the end of today's show. Stick around, leave a like, drink your water, don't go anywhere.
Welcome on in, ladies and gentlemen, to the AZ Wildcats podcast, live from Studio K, presented by our friends at Circle K, because Kevin Thomas, my guy, we have a ranked matchup on the horizon.
Wow.
Weather permitting, between the Arizona Wildcats and the BYU Cougars on Saturday, and we are so excited to be talking about it. And we are also fired up to be bringing on Arizona women's basketball head coach Becky Burke just 1 week after Arizona women's basketball's media day, the day of the Big 12 women's media preseason poll going live. Kevin, excited to talk to Becky about what she thinks about the Wildcats being picked towards the bottom of the conference, and if she is taking that with a little bit of disrespect and using it to help drive our team into the season. But Kevin, before we get into the women's basketball side of things, we're going to be breaking down football. We're going to be breaking down Bear Bachmeier, the true freshman, BYU phenom, all show long, all that first hour. And we're going to be talking about the Arizona Wildcats, how they can get the job done against a very, very good BYU squad.
Excited for this Saturday, Damon. I mean, apparently it's going to be a hurricane-like environment. I hope that everybody is okay where the hurricane is currently hitting. But as it relates to Arizona, there's lots of rumors that the kickoff will be pushed up to hopefully avoid some of those rain and lightning storms coming Tucson's way. Hopefully, it's like Eric Brotherton says here in the chat. Thanks for tuning in. Upset loading Arizona versus BYU, because this is the toughest team BYU's faced all year, and that's not me being a homer. That's just, if you go look at their schedule, Arizona's by far the toughest team that BYU will be facing so far. If you want to give an argument for Colorado on the road, I will hear you on that, but I think we can both agree the way that Arizona's defense has been playing, this is Bear Bachmeier's biggest test so far. You saw it in the headline of today's show, and that is exactly where we're starting this out today. Bear Bachmeier's looked really good, right? Bear Bachmeier's looked really good so far. You know, freshman quarterback stepping in for BYU in, I'll just say, unceremonious circumstances, you know, coming in late, kind of being named a starter out of necessity, but he also clearly showed himself in these, you know, summer practice runs to be the guy that Kalani Sitake is trusting to lead his program this season. And he's led him to a back-to-back 5-0 record so far this year, right? You have your second straight 5-0 start under Kalani Sitake. BYU is seemingly rolling. They are ranked right now, as Damon alluded to off top of this show. But I think Arizona's defense can give BYU's quarterback, who is a freshman, enough different looks to throw him off his game and hopefully pull off an upset this Saturday.
Yeah, I think, you know, obviously so much goes into this game, and it's much more than just, you know, quarterback versus quarterback, right? But one thing that comes to mind when I'm kind of evaluating these two teams, Kevin, is, you know, both teams, if you had to pick a calling card, is their defense, right? Like, BYU is a defensive-oriented team. We know Arizona has been a defensive-oriented team since Danny Gonzalez took over as defensive coordinator. And really, essentially, I think that Arizona would have been as well last year, but they just had too many injuries sustained last season to truly have that identity, right? But I think that this year's defense is better coached, more well put together, and has had better injury luck thus far, knock on wood. But I also think BYU's defense presents similar challenges where, you know, they've consistently shut down essentially every single opponent that they've played. But much like Arizona, who have they truly played, right? Like, that's the strength of schedule is not all there. Arizona having played Iowa State, you know, obviously that was the big matchup so far, and we took the L by a pretty decent margin. BYU really hasn't played much of anybody, Kevin. And you know, as you look in their Big 12 games thus far, they've played Colorado and West Virginia, neither of whom are teams that are exceptional, teams that you would write home about, West Virginia being pretty bad in particular. They gave up 24 points to BYU, which is, I think, the most points that they've given up all season, and they did so to Khalil Wilkins at quarterback, who isn't even relevant enough to make our quarterback power rankings thus far this year, Kevin. Only threw 12 passes in that game, and yet it was fairly close at the fourth quarter mark. So I think, BYU they're obviously a very good team. They're obviously a team that isn't going to really beat themselves as much. Like they're solid all the way around, very balanced. But when I look at this matchup, I think to myself, both teams have good defenses. One team has an experienced quarterback who's shown flashes of being elite, and the other one has a true freshman quarterback who hasn't necessarily been tested yet at the highest level.
Yeah, and we'll get to more of that in a second. I want to answer Deborah Owens' question here about the kickoff time in the chat, asking me if I could repeat what I said about the kickoff time potentially moving up. From Justin Spears' Twitter, as of, I believe, about 2 hours ago, he says, for now, Arizona versus BYU football game will kick off on Saturday at 5 p.m., but the conference is monitoring the weather in the area in relation to Hurricane Priscilla, and we'll know more tomorrow because right now it's too early to make that kind of a prediction. But yeah, he also throws in the example of last season, the Big 12 moved ASU versus Oklahoma State kickoff time up 3+ hours because of inclement weather. So keep an eye on your social channels to see about this kickoff time as it relates to tomorrow. If there's an update pre-show, we'll have it for you. But yeah, keep your eyes peeled.
No doubt about it. But yeah, I think, as Sam says here, he hasn't really faced any great defenses either. I think that, while we're simultaneously going to give Bear Bachmeier, I think, a lot of respect and credit for what he's done this season, stepping into, as you said, a very difficult position with Jake Retzlaff and how that situation kind of unfolded. BYU, they considered themselves a contending team, a college football playoff caliber team. And at the last minute, they lost their quarterback who they had a lot of confidence in, right? And I'm not I didn't think Jake Retzlaff was some exceptional passer, but the dude's pretty good. Like he's a good runner. He was clutch in big moments last year. I think, that if they had Jake Retzlaff still, they would be looking at potentially being a Big 12 title contending type of team. Now they take a slight step back, bringing in a Bear Bachmeier, I think, just because he doesn't have that experience. But in the long run, this could spell a higher ceiling, I think, for BYU, giving him these reps early. But Arizona, I think, just has to take advantage of a guy who hasn't really seen a lot of looks from a defensive standpoint, like Arizona thus far. Like Danny Gonzalez, the de facto Dr. Blitz these days. I expect him to really throw a ton at a freshman quarterback, something that, looks that he hasn't seen before. Twists, stunts, delayed blitzes, things that, he's not necessarily looking out for that could throw him off of his game. And if Arizona's going to win this one, I think you got to make Bear Bachmeier uncomfortable, and you have to have, I think, him probably turn the ball over at least one time, Kevin, because I don't see a world where Arizona's not really winning the turnover margin and they're somehow coming out with the W.
Really well said. When you talk about Bear Bachmeier getting this challenge from Arizona's defense and defensive coordinator Danny Gonzalez, BYU opponents guessed the record so far this season combined, 9-19.
Oof. I wish you let me guess.
My bad. I honestly assumed you saw it in the rundown, so I didn't want to be like, have you seen it? Yeah. Can you guess it? And you're like, no, 9-19,
I don't read any of the preparation that you put together for us, Kevin.
But yeah, BYU opponents this season combined 9-19. They have the 11th best passing attack, that's BYU, that is, in the conference offensively. And you know who they have not faced so far this season? The number one passing defense in the Big 12, and that's Arizona, right? And I think the route to beating a team like BYU, I feel like a broken record because anytime Arizona is an underdog, the route to victory is stopping the run and enforcing your own run game. However, in this game against BYU, it is even stronger, that case, because if you're going to make BYU uncomfortable, you have to make Bear Bachmeier throw the ball. Not saying he can't throw the ball, but that is not what he's been tasked to do this year. So far, he's been tasked to be at the helm of the offense, run everything, make sure we don't go off course, off script, off timing, off schedule, and he's been very good at that so far. LJ Martin, right, who has been a huge help to Bear Bachmeier so far with his ability to run the ball behind that big, strong BYU offensive line. And then Bear Bachmeier himself in the running game. You have to shut that down and force Bear Bachmeier to challenge your secondary. Force him to challenge Javion Cole. Force him to challenge Michael Dansby. Force him to challenge Genesis Smith as well, right? And we know it's going to be tougher, and we could probably get to this now. It's going to be tougher because you lose Tre Smith for the season. You've lost Tre Smith for the season, as Brent Brennan announced today in his press conference that Tre Smith underwent surgery on an undisclosed injury at this time, and his season is over as of, I guess, today, per head coach Brent Brennan. So it's going to be tougher to stop the run game going up against BYU, but that's where it starts, right? Making Bear Bachmeier uncomfortable by taking away his, I don't want to say training wheels because it sounds demeaning, but taking away the training wheels, right? Take away the run game, make it harder for BYU to run, and really make him do something he has yet to do, which is win the game by airing the ball out.
Yeah, and make him beat you, essentially. Which
Correct,
is,
yeah.
And I think it's one of those situations where if he does, you tip your cap, Kevin. You say, you know what? We got beat by a better football team today, and Bear Bachmeier is the truth. But if Arizona, the less talented team on paper is going to win this game, they're going to have to do so, I think, by making Bear Bachmeier make electric highlight reel plays that are going to, I think we're either going to be walking out of this one, Kevin, being like, oh my God, BYU as a Heisman candidate in the future at quarterback, or, not that Bear Bachmeier's career is going to be over, but Arizona's going to get the W. Like, I really think that it's almost one or the other. Bear Bachmeier is nuts, or Arizona wins the football game. And I hope that that's what Danny Gonzalez and the defensive staff is trying to accomplish this week, because I think you do have to, it's football, right? You have to give and take in certain places. You look at the Iowa State game, Arizona was very much loading up the box, trying to stop the run, trying to, get the run game figured out versus an Iowa State team that was more physical than them and is bigger than them. And so what did Rocco Beck do? He used that opportunity to take one-on-one matchups, take deep shots down the field, and he made good throws. And that's why Iowa State's offense was moving the football. And I think in a situation like that, Arizona almost did what they were trying to do. They just lost. They knew on paper, it's like, yeah, you're probably going to lose to this Iowa State team who's better than you on the road in a whiteout. Like, apparently we're Iowa State's Super Bowl. And so they're gonna treat it as such. And so when Rocco Becht is making those throws, you just say, you know what, that's if we were going to lose, that's how we were going to lose. And it is what it is. I think you got to do the same thing with Bear Bachmeier this week. And no disrespect to him, there's a world in which he very much beats Arizona. But I think you just, in a way, you almost want to make this a Noah Fafita versus Bear Bachmeier kind of competition of like seeing elite defenses, and hope that your junior quarterback, who's seen a lot of really good defenses over his course of time at Arizona, is up for the task, right? But I think it's funny. I said the turnover thing, and then I looked at Justin Spears' Twitter, and Brent Brennan gave his keys to the game, Kevin, and number one was the turnover battle. And not that that's not important for every single game ever, but it was Brent Brennan's keys for Arizona versus BYU. So I'm going to say this so that you don't just copy him 3 for 3, Kevin. Turnover battle, how the Cats handle the weather, physicality to beat a mature team like BYU.
Those are some great keys, right? Especially the weather thing. I think a lot has been made about the weather on social media recently, with specifically the Sam Levitt videos that have been going viral of how they've been practicing for inclement weather. But I think that in terms of Brent Brennan's keys, that the first one and the last one are the ones I really want to key in on, pardon the pun there, because you are facing a more like physically mature and recruiting wise. The BYU roster has been matured over time to, be curated in this physical fashion, right? We talked about this in the preparation for the Iowa State game as well, right? Matt Campbell, Kalani Sitake, those two coaches have been recruiting their players to be the exact teams that we're seeing today. Brent Brennan's not in that same position. He's still trying to get to a place where the team that he has on the field replicates the ideal team that he wants to put out there every single time. And I think when you're talking about like how to upset a team that's been working towards this roster that they have for years, I think you do start with winning the turnover battle and also making sure you're not getting beat off the ball physically or not getting bullied around by a team that has been, bred to do that exact thing. And when we're talking about the turnover battle, if you are going up against like a Cincinnati, or you're going up against like a KU, or you're going up against some of these other teams like a Baylor, who are more prone to getting in shootouts, and they're not really worried about how many possessions they get. They're just worried about what the end score is and did they win the game. BYU's not like that. You can't give BYU additional chances at it because they will make you pay. They will take that away from you, right? So I think Arizona, I said it to you pre-show, we got to break out the turnover sword at least twice.
Yeah.
At least twice. I mean, I think, Arizona has yet to allow a passing touchdown this season, knocking on wood. And Arizona
That's
is also,
wild.
I know, only team in the nation. And Arizona is also one of the better, they're the number one passing defense in the conference. So I feel like that makes you one of the better passing defenses in the country.
Sewell just that close.
Oof.
I mean, that close to making that not a thing.
Correct. And if you can turn Bear Bachmeier over, shake his confidence even further than what we were already alluding to with the emphasis on the run game defense, I think you have a recipe for an Arizona upset in this one at home on family weekend. It should be a packed crowd, hopefully more Arizona fans than Cougar fans. But, yeah, I think that the Brent Brennan's keys are pretty apt. And I'm glad to hear that I agree with our head coach's keys to the game. It would have been a big downer if you gave me those keys and I'm like, what is he talking about?
Similar shades of when he said he thought Chris Hunter had 10 catches in the Iowa State game and he had like 4. But I agree. I think that this one is in large part going to come down to how these teams handle the weather and how these defenses perform against each particular quarterback. But to make your point earlier, Kevin, about BYU's offensive line. We mentioned Cincinnati has the tied for first best O-line in terms of sacks allowed in the country yesterday. Well, BYU is T11 in that category nationally. So they are up there with the best of them in terms of pass protection from an offensive line standpoint. And honestly, as much as I think that Bear Bachmeier deserves a lot of credit, he also, has been put into a really good situation, a really, really good roster with a good offensive line. Solid weaponry, a really good defense. Kalani Sitake is an unbelievable coach that is very consistent every year. So he's been set up to succeed. Very possible that he is set up to succeed in this one versus the Arizona Wildcats. But I think that Arizona can present some unique challenges to him that he hasn't seen before, especially going up against his best game was probably his last game versus West Virginia, and that's fine. But West Virginia is trash. We know West Virginia is trash.
Not good, yeah.
So it really will be interesting to see Bear Bachmeier kind of go up against a competent team here. I mean, I feel like Colorado's defense is really not bad.
They're not
right.
Bad.
Like
they
got a pretty solid defense against Colorado. He went 19 of 27, 179 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and then had 15 carries for 98 yards on the ground. So he had himself a good game.
He did.
That's less than 200 yards, but it's 2 touchdowns to 0 turnovers. You add in the rushing, it's almost about 280 yards of total offense. Like if he does that again, you're probably in trouble.
Yeah.
But I think you got to make him look a little bit more like he did maybe last week versus West Virginia, where even though he puts up a ton of passing yards, he still turns the ball over and it wasn't like all that exceptional of a performance from BYU in general. But this one is winnable, but I definitely think that BYU is the rightful favorites here.
And you got to get after Bear Bachmeier as well. It's part of making him uncomfortable, getting after the quarterback, showing him that pressure that Damon was alluding to, whether it's the stunts, the twists that we were talking about earlier on this pod. Not only does BYU have the second best rushing attack, they also have the second best number of sacks allowed so far with only 3, only behind Cincinnati, who Damon already told you about yesterday in relation to the Jalen Hurts, Brendan Sorsby conversation.
I think it's 4 actually, from what I'm looking at on ESPN right now.
Okay.
3 in the Stanford game, 1 in the ECU game, but only 4 sacks on the entire season is crazy.
Yes, 4 sacks on the entire season. And Arizona also has allowed the most sacks in the Big 12 with 14 already so far. And it feels like without Tre Smith, it's going to be a lot harder to get after Bear Bachmeier. Not to put you on the spot a little bit, I know the Tre Smith news was recent, Damon, but what do you make of Arizona's front attack on not only the rush defense, but pressuring the quarterback without a guy like Tre Smith? Yeah,
that's a big loss for this game in particular, especially with that perceived, I think, line of scrimmage advantage that BYU does have. So, getting weaker and thinner on that spot is definitely difficult. And yeah, man, it seems like Tre Smith's kind of been battling some nagging injuries all season long here, which is obviously not ideal, especially for him in his last season of college football. But yeah, that could be a very pivotal loss for Arizona in this one because I think that's a position group where they've performed fairly admirably, the defensive line. I don't really have any issues with how they've done, and I think that you have a lot of bodies for that kind of more stand up edge rusher spot on the other side of a Tre Smith, because Tre Smith's a little bit more of a hand in the dirt defensive lineman, whereas the Chase Kennedys, the Riley Wilsons are kind of those stand-up edge rushers that can sometimes drop into coverage. I think Arizona's kind of in a decent spot depth-wise with that position. But I think that the Tre Smith position, they're actually less equipped to handle losing a body at, because he is so pivotal to what they do. So it's going to be interesting to see, who plays a lot of the bulk share of the snaps in his absence. I think the D tackles have been decent. Could mean that like maybe a guy like Deshaun McKnight, a guy like Julian Savanea might need to, kind of help supplement the pass rushing side of things a little bit more. But yeah, definitely Tre Smith is a tough one to lose, especially in probably what is your biggest game of the season thus far.
Yeah, and if you look for any more specifics on what Tre Smith's injury is, Brent Brennan very slyly responded that we just don't need details. We don't need details. We just need to know that he's out for the season, and that's the Tre Smith update as of right now. We're gonna have Spears on tomorrow. I'm sure he will have an update for us in relation to the injury of. Sorry, I should say the availability report, because I guess not everything on there is injury related. But you also are missing Kean Burnett. And you're also missing Jara Anderson. So that is kind of the new availability report updates. Obviously, the marquee one there is Tre Smith losing a guy on that defensive line that was super impactful even in last season, where you really didn't have a lot of guys outside of really Tre Smith, Stukes, and Genesis Smith making consistent impact on that side of the ball. And I feel like to lose a guy like Tre Smith just days before you are set to go at home against the number 18 team in the country is truly unfortunate. And it's going to be noticeable, I feel like. I'm not saying that it's going to be a disaster scenario because you're missing Tre Smith, but that is a really impactful player that we're going to be missing on that defensive line come Saturday.
Yeah, truly. And yeah, I definitely feel for Tre Smith, who, Kevin, it seems like just such a good dude. Every time that we've had the opportunity to talk to him, is so respectful of your time, right? Like really engages with you. I feel like more so than almost any athlete I've really talked to. Like the dude, like he almost stares through your soul when you're having a conversation with them. And he definitely has like a good head on his shoulders. I'm sure he'll deal with this in a very mature, leadership driven way that, to do whatever helps his team the best in the future. But sucks to lose not only that guy, in his how good he is on the field, but also just that leadership aspect of. I think a lot of players probably, especially on the D line, probably turn to Tre Smith and look to him to be that kind of the leader of the position group. So that's gonna be a tough loss, definitely. On the BYU side of things, Jack Kelly is doubtful, Kevin, and that's one of those linebackers that we've been talking about. BYU has a duo of stud linebackers, so that could be huge for Arizona, and just kind of being able to run the football, being able to throw the football.
1,000%, right? We're talking about Glasker and we're talking about Kelly. Kelly and Glasker. Sounds like a gun company or of some sort. But Glasker will be there. And when you combine him with Kelly, BYU has one of the most impactful linebacker duos in the entire country, as you already alluded to there. The potential to not have Jack Kelly suit up for BYU is big for Arizona. Obviously, you want to beat a team at their best. You want to beat them at their healthiest. But if they're not their healthiest, that undeniably helps you out schematically. Having such an impact player out like a Jack Kelly is big. The run game for Arizona is going to be massive in this one. BYU will be missing him in that route as well. And yeah, as Sam Albert says in the chat, Glasker and Kelly, or Kelly and Glasker, sounds like an injury law firm that may be, rivaling some people here in the Valley. But yeah, that's a big loss for BYU if he is indeed unable to suit up. I know it says doubtful on there, so it's not 1,000% that he won't play on Saturday if they need him. But yeah, that's a big loss for BYU if he's unable to go.
Doubtful, I guess it means technically 25%. I don't think that it's like that exact necessarily, but I guess that's a general rule of thumb that you can use for that discussion. But yeah, man, it's going to be It's going to be a fun one, weather permitting here, Kevin, because we're experiencing some showers today here in Phoenix, which is interesting. Been getting a ton of rain recently in Phoenix, which is really odd. And then, on Saturday, expected to be thunderstorms here, heavy thunderstorms, 70% chance of rain. I mean, it's probably going to be pretty bad. I mean, hopefully it doesn't affect the game necessarily, but I don't know, man. We're gonna find out here in the future. It is interesting though. Like, we don't typically have rain, I feel like, in the October, November time of the year.
Yeah, like you said, welcome to the PHNX, weather report. I am Kevin. He is Damon. We're reporting live from overcasted Phoenix, Arizona. But yeah, no, it has been weird, the amount of rain we've been getting. You don't often get Arizona in these situations where rain is really an issue in, early to mid-October. But coming up on Saturday, it will be. I mostly wanted to talk about the weather, Damon, in relation to the fan support for Saturday. It was dry last Saturday and nobody showed up, but it was hot. This Saturday is going to be climate. It's going to be a decent little cool climate.
You can't go to the game, Kevin. It's raining.
Oh no, not the water. Oh darn. Oh, my clothes are going to get wet. Oh geez. Oh no. Man, wear a garbage bag or something. Ponchos exist.
Yeah. I mean, there's been a lot of talk on this show in particular about the fan support, and I've said every time that I brought up this conversation that it's difficult sometimes for me to feel like I can speak from this place, being that I don't go to the games consistently anymore, that I do not live in Tucson. But if I had the ability to, if my job did not preclude me from, having to work on Saturdays, having to be at the office on Saturdays, I think I would go to every home game I could in Tucson. I think I would drive down for about 4, 5, maybe even 6 home games a year if I could make it work, because it does matter to me that much. And it sucks when you have the same people that consistently are like, well, the prices are bad and the weather is terrible and the kickoff time doesn't work for me. And it's like, man, just this laundry list, this myriad of excuses just constantly, and it never stops. We need people to show up this week and show up in droves, because we know BYU fans are going to show up. We know that the traffic down from the East Valley, from Queen Creek, from Gilbert, from Mesa is going to be an absolute travesty, Kevin, because the Mormons are going to show out and support their team. They always do. They did during the basketball game at McHale last year, right? Like we saw them show up and show out. So we need Arizona fans to do the same. And this can't be like a 50-50 situation. This needs to be like a 70-30 situation. You know what I mean? And so I'm imploring Arizona fans, please show up this weekend and bring your poncho, bring your umbrella, and let's watch some football. That's football weather, Kevin.
It's really good football weather. And like Brent Brennan said today during his press conference, the only thing that stops a game day is lightning. So if you don't see no lightning, your butt had better be in a seat. That's all I'm saying. Or you're standing because you're cheering. That's all I'm saying. But yeah, our guy Saul in the chat is saying that, speaking from expertise or experience, anything is possible. Just saying. I think he's what am I trying to say? Encouraging us to just make some things happen, which is neither here nor there.
Yeah, I mean, an upset is certainly in the cards, and then you'll be the one sitting there regretting it. Man, I could have gone to the game. I could have seen the field rush, because if we win, there will be a field rush. And I think that's worth it all in itself. But shout out Sam, who's going to be making the trek down from the valley to Tucson for the game. Sam, make sure you leave with ample time, because as I said, the freeway down is probably going to be a joke. Saul will be there as well. Same to you. And I'm sure Saul is very aware of that. But yeah, I appreciate everybody who will be going to the game, and let's get this W, man. I'm jealous I'm not going. Truly.
Me as well. It should be a really fun environment, even with the rain.
Kevin, I ever tell you about when I quit my football job my senior year solely so I could enjoy my senior year going to the games with my friends, and then a little pandemic called COVID-19 happened and didn't allow me to go to any football games my senior year?
You did tell me that, but I'm glad you're rehashing it here on the air.
Lose out on my unemployment checks I would have made in the process if I didn't quit willingly. Yeah, that was fun. Probably my biggest regret in life.
Well, I mean, I feel like if that's your biggest regret in life, it's not. You've
Fair.
had a pretty good life.
Fair.
But Damon and I, we're going to talk more about this BYU matchup, including some news and notes from Brent Brennan's press availability today. After this quick break here on the AZ Wildcats podcast, please leave a like and don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. You know, Damon, I cannot seem to talk straight today, but that is okay because I will lock in and tell everyone at home how important it is to shop with our friends over at Zen Leaf Dispensaries, because you can be like me and be like Damon and enjoy some of the great products that Zen Leaf has to offer, whether you're interested in flower, vapes, edibles, or anything related to that good THC. Zen Leaf has you on the money. And if you even want to load up, right? I know payday for some of us might be next week or something like that. If you want to load up, but you're scared about the price, you know, I know, marijuana can be a little bit expensive. Zen Leaf has you covered, 50% off. That's right, half off of a one-time purchase with promo code ZEN, PHNX. That's ZEN, PHNX, for 50% off of a one-time purchase. Don't forget to use that promo code when you're shopping with our friends over at Zen Leaf, whether you're pre-gaming, post-gaming, or just trying to unwind after an incredibly frustrating WNBA Finals game. Zen Leaf, great weed, great service every time.
Kevin, let me tell you about a little company called Rally House. It's the go-to spot to shop for all your favorite local Arizona team gear with thousands of products to shop from. Not just tens of thousands of products to shop from, and locations in Tempe, Mesa, and Glendale. So if you're looking for a central location, it's at Tempe Marketplace. If you're looking for a West Valley location, they of course have the Glendale location out there where Johnny and Bo did their live show from, where Totri and Ruby are doing their live show from. Gross. But that's okay. That maybe we can have them, Kevin, we can have them set up their shot right in front of all the Arizona Wildcats team gear at Rally House, because it is beautiful. I got this lid from my friends over at Rally House. They got great, beautiful looking gear, of course, on rallyhouse.com. As always, check out whether it's a hat, jersey, shirt, even drinkware signage, coolers, socks, Kevin, dog collars, sunscreen, apparel, coasters, man cave signs, like
probably
you name
dice,
it, man.
Probably got a little dice in there.
Yeah, absolutely. Rally House has all the types of team issued gear that you can't find anywhere else. Find your local Rally House location and shop their entire product assortment online at www.rallyhouse.com today. Every time you visit a Rally House, you're guaranteed to find something new, unique, and that matches your game day vibe. So check it out for yourself, people.
My dog is always rocking the St. Louis Blues dog collar that I got at a St. Louis Rally House location. Shout out to the NHL. NHL is back today. Hopefully the St. Louis Blues get it done.
St. Louis. Does St. Louis Blues count?
Sure.
As drink?
Yeah, I mean, it'll be probably mentioned a good 82 times on the podcast.
I was listening to Heart of a Champion earlier today. You hear that, Kevin, or did you miss that?
What do you mean?
Little Nelly?
Oh, yeah. I did miss you listening to it.
I had it blaring over here while I was getting started for D-backs, and I was kind of half expecting just a little...
Yeah, I didn't catch it.
Hey, is that Nelly? Is that he's from St. Louis?
With like a Band-Aid on, I come in with a Band-Aid on, like, is that Nels?
Do you know he's from the Lou?
I was listening to some Keisha Cole this morning. Some Love by Keisha Cole. That will get you all the way right on a rainy day. But anyway, Damon, we got some football to talk about. Speaking of rainy days, Arizona taking on BYU this Saturday, potentially in a rainy environment. I wanted to put up this chart here in the second half of the show. And don't forget, folks, we do have Becky Burke, Arizona women's basketball coach, joining live at 3 p.m. today at the tail end of the show. So stick around, stay tuned for that. But until then, let's talk a little bit about this chart here, Damon. I got this chart from Game on Paper, I believe. Yeah, gameonpaper.com. And they are, a really good resource for college football advanced analytics, such as opponent adjusted EPA per play. And this is a chart on the y-axis of the defensive adjusted EPA per play, x-axis offensive adjusted EPA per play, with 4 quadrants: bad offense, good defense, good offense, good defense, good offense, bad defense, and bad offense, bad defense. Clearly, Oklahoma State, as you can tell, struggling by every sense of the word. They are bad offense, bad defense personified. As you go into the bad offense, good defense category, Arizona, with Alamo Bowl opponent Oklahoma, is in that top left quadrant there. ASU about dead in the middle. And yeah, shout out to my Missouri Tigers in the good offense, good defense category as well. That is where you also see BYU for Arizona's upcoming opponent this weekend. Damon, any thoughts on this graph? Anything that sticks out to you?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Arizona's, offense is on the wrong side of the what is that, the x-axis there. But at the same time, or I guess the y-axis, but at the same time, there's room for improvement. I mean, you very easily could find yourself in the positive part of that. And Kevin, what's the ceiling for this team if they're able to make their way on the positive EPA side of the offensive side of the football? Because that defense is, as things currently stand, one of the 5 best, 10 best in the country. And that's not really even a debate. Danny Gonzalez has worked wonders with this defense. So to me, truly, I look at that and I say, the room for growth for Arizona football is there. The ceiling is not been hit, and you don't want to hit your ceiling 5 games into the season. You want to be able to still strive and snowball and reach for something as the season goes on. And I think that Arizona is clear that they're a good team, but they're not a great team yet. They could get there. There's a lot of things that they can improve upon: special teams, consistently running the football, penalties in the red zone, like all of that stuff can be cleaned up fairly easily. And then the sky's the limit, right? And so I personally see that and say to myself, like, man, Arizona's been good, but there's so much a different level that we could reach. And it starts with this Saturday. You got to get the W this Saturday, and then the entire math on the rest of the season changes.
Yeah, 1,000%. If you look at that chart, I'll pull it up one more time just to make this specific point. Look how damn good Danny Gonzalez has this unit playing. When you really map it out like this, it really shows the difference between Arizona's defense in adjusted EPA per play and every other program in the country right now. The gap is pretty large right there. You have Oklahoma clearly, the highest on that, and then you have Arizona clearly the second highest on that as well. It feels to me, like Damon said, that if you can get any consistency out of this Danny Gonzalez defense, and I'm not talking about this year because we've seen it consistently so far this year. I'm talking about in years to come, right? If you can get any level of consistency that Arizona's defense under Danny Gonzalez will at least be in that range.
Yeah.
I think Seth Dagey is good enough to figure it out on the other side of the ball and get you into that good offense, good defense category that I think really sets you apart as a contender in whatever conference you're in. I think if you are in that good offense, good defense quadrant, you have teams like Alabama, BYU, Penn State, Indiana, Oregon, Ohio State. Do any of those teams move the needle for you? They should, right? And Arizona is not far. I'm not saying that they're not far from being those teams. They are quite far from being those exact teams. But statistically, this season, they are not far off from giving themselves a chance to beat anybody like with their output on the field, right? Offensively, it's been a little bit of Jekyll and Hyde, specifically in the passing game. And I think if you can get that cleaned up, you are well on your way to entering that good offense, good defense category. There needs to be a good offense, great defense category, because Arizona's been a really good defense and they've been better than good so far this season.
I'm sorry, repeat the question one more time.
Oh no, I was just being silly because you mathematically can't. But I was saying there needs to be a great quadrant somewhere in there because you have good, bad, good, bad. And I'm just like, we need to have a great because Danny Gonzalez is having them playing really well so far.
Yeah, right over the top of my idiot brain. But yeah, I this defense is I keep saying it. They're the calling card. They're what this team can hang its hat upon as the season continues. And you look at that chart and you say to yourself, man, like this is truly one of the elite defenses in college football. But even though the offense I think has been struggled at times, it also hasn't been bad. And that's, to me, that chart is flattering just in terms of how I think Arizona can compete for the rest of the season. And the EPA stuff, I mean, absolutely loves Arizona's defense in particular. Like thinks it's one of the best defenses in the entire country. Looking back at that chart, Kevin, if you wouldn't mind pulling it up one more time, I just want to look at some of our contemporaries here on this list. Oklahoma State is easily the worst team in the country. I think that we knew that.
That is a gross placement, by the way.
Yeah, we knew that, right? Like that checks out after last week, especially.
Jed Fish's new spot, UCLA, in the bad category. Would you look at that? And his current spot in the good-bad category.
Yeah, and that checks out too. I mean, you got Damon Williams and some really good offensive players, but the defense hasn't all been that great. Cincinnati, their offense really high, but their defense pretty low. That's interesting for the Arizona game. Colorado, I mean, we've been saying the opposite, Kevin. I think that's semi-interesting. Their offense being positive and their defense being negative.
And they're close to just straight up being bad.
Yeah, they very much are. ASU is the most average team apparently in college football.
And their monumental Mississippi State opponent that they face is right there with them. So that's a massive game, I guess.
Iowa State is confusing me a little bit.
Iowa State in the bad offense, good defense category, but just barely.
But barely in the good defense category. I mean, they're close to being in the bad, Kevin.
They are close to being in the,
and they're a good
bad,
team.
Bad. They are a really good team. To be fair, they played really poorly recently. And also, I feel like that game against Arkansas State is probably killing them in this. Because this does, adjusted EPA does take into account strength of schedule or strength of opponent, I should say.
Yeah.
And so, nearly losing that game in the way in which they did, probably not flattering for the EPA numbers, especially the adjusted EPA numbers on that board. Any other teams sticking out to you on this chart here, Damon?
Houston a little bit, kind of similar vibes to Arizona. I mean, we've been comparing Houston and Arizona, I feel like all season long, right? Like that's going to continue to be kind of a comparison point. I just honestly, the Iowa State one is the one that's shocking to me because you look at the teams that they're in and around, and I just don't respect those teams. Like Wisconsin is
Clemson.
Wisconsin is god awful. Clemson is bad. South Carolina is not very good. Like I just think Iowa State is a much better caliber team than that, and it's interesting. It's interesting that they beat us by so much, but yet our defense is considered so much better than their defense. I do think that a lot of those statistics kind of take into account that it really wasn't Arizona's defense's fault that how that game went down the way that it did. And so I think there's some benefit of the doubt going on there. But this week's going to be huge for a chart like that in terms of where Arizona falls on it, because it's very possible BYU puts it on you, or if you get the W, it probably means that you shut down Bear Bachmeier and your defense is only just more legitimate by the day. So yeah, man, I love looking at a chart like that though, Kevin. Something about the visual.
Yeah, something about the visual, something about a chart that is flattering to the program in which you love most. Also, Damon, I'll say this much. Like, if Arizona's defense goes out and has another performance akin to the ones they've been having so far this season, there should be no one in our chat, there should be no one in the office, there should be no one on social media saying that the Arizona defense is not now legitimate. This is a opportunity for Danny Gonzalez, Genesis Smith, and company, Traden Stukes, the rest of the defense, to go out and really prove yourself against a team that I think a lot of people, they like BYU to really be successful this season. They're the number 18 ranked team in the country. I think that the rebuttal to people like me and Damon who have been praising the defense so far for Arizona, I think the rebuttal that we've gotten most is, well, you guys haven't played anybody. And it's like, okay, I hear you on that, but what I'm seeing in the defense is what I'm seeing, right? They can only play who they played, and so far the defense is choking those teams out outside of Iowa State, which, yes, as you already alluded to, that's not really the reason you lost that game. And furthermore, your defense was continuously put in disadvantageous positions. However, I digress. If Arizona's defense goes out there and dominates against BYU, I don't want to hear anybody telling me that they can't, who have they played? They haven't played anybody. Well, if they go out there and do it, shut down BYU's prolific rushing attack so far, I think that's a huge feather in Danny Gonzalez's cap and a huge feather in the overall unit's cap as well.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And as we inch closer here, Kevin, to BYU versus Arizona, I want to look at the betting line and see what we're talking about here, because it opened at -1.5. I think BYU.
Isn't it 2.5 BYU now?
I am checking on Vegas Insider, and it kind of depends on the book you look at. Bet365 has Arizona at +2 currently, so not on that half line mark, but most books have it at +1.5 as things currently stand. So yeah, it's gonna be an interesting one. I mean, I think, it's hard to get much closer than that. So it seems like
what's the money line?
The money line for Arizona,
per our friends over at Bet365,
it says it's even.
Damn. I was actually kind of hoping to get Arizona at like plus 136 or something right there. That would have been pretty juicy. I think Arizona has a really good chance from a betting perspective. I think in this one to make you some money, in my opinion, because I think like the home field advantage of it all. Well, I guess you're at home. I think the idea that the defense has been so good. I think Noah Fafita is the vastly more talented quarterback right now in this one. Certainly the vastly more experienced quarterback in this matchup. And I think if I'm gambling on it, I'm going to bet with the more experienced quarterback, the defense that I think is better, and I think the team that overall has more advantages in this one. And I'm not saying that when we do our matchup battles, Arizona is going to win it, but I think heading into this one, a lot of signs are pointing towards Arizona being able to pull off the upset. I think a lot more signs than the ones that we were seeing going into Iowa State. I think when Arizona was going up against Iowa State, I think it's a lot of how can they get it done as opposed to, well, they'll get it done and this is how. It's if they're going to do it at all, like what is the pipe dream of how they can get this upset done in a whiteout on the road. This one feels a lot more tangible. It feels like Arizona can really go out and accomplish this one. It does feel like if Arizona is more prepared than they were against Iowa State, if Arizona executes at a higher level than they did against Iowa State, they can pull off the improbable upset here against number 18 BYU.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And it really, truly for me, it kind of comes down to Noah Fafita versus Bear Bachmeier. And I know that it's a football game, right? Like quarterbacks are the most impactful players. A lot of games kind of come down to, what the quarterback looks like. But I think in this one, you're so designed kind of in a good on good battle of defenses that the teams feel so kind of similarly built in a way that, you're almost like expecting it to someone needs to be that needle mover. And personally, like that's the thing that gives me confidence in this game. And I'm not saying I'm going to predict a W. I still don't know what I'm going to predict yet, but I am saying that I think that, there's some confidence in the fact that Noah Fafita has been there before. He's played in these type of games. He's at home. Bear Bachmeier is not. Bear Bachmeier hasn't experienced I don't think like a big time game road environment yet. Not to say that Arizona Stadium is like college football.
The stadium pulse is going to be crazy.
Stadium pulse type of vibe, but it could get popping depending on the situation in the game, and that's where I think that Arizona can really make its mark and jump on that opportunity, Kevin.
Well said, and we are going to get to more of this preview before we have Becky Burke on today's pod. Like I said earlier, if you were not here for the beginning of the pod, we will be having Arizona women's basketball head coach Becky Burke on today at 3 p.m. live on today's pod. So stick around, leave a like, and we'll be back to wrap up our BYU preview right after this break here on the AZ Wildcats podcast. And if you want to make some money on the Arizona Wildcats football program, there is no better place to do it than with our friends over at Gila River Resorts and Casinos and their BetMGM Sportsbook, because that sportsbook has everything you need. It's got combat sports, it's got football, it's got basketball, it's got hockey. That's, puck drop is tonight for the NHL regular season as well. So make sure to check out Gila River Resorts and Casinos. If you're not a sports bettor, then maybe you're interested in all their table games. High wage, low wage, they got it all at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Over 4,500 slots and live table games for you to indulge in, because you do you at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Visit playatgila.com for more details on that.
Yeah, of course. Gila River Resorts and Casinos, the GOAT of casinos and the GOAT of gas stations is, of course, Circle K, America's thirst stop, the only place that I ever go whenever I need to gas up, whenever I need a caffeine pick-me-up. If I ever need a snack, Kevin, I know that the Circle K nearest to me, which is probably approximately 100 feet in any direction, I can just go in there, get the best snacks, the Circle K snacks, find myself an energy drink for a Inner Circle Rewards membership program price. And then, of course, fill up with 5 cents off per gallon because I'm a premium member of the Inner Circle Rewards program. You can become a premium member yourself. You're going to have to start off a little bit lower than that. But when you sign up, guys, for this brand new free app, you're going to save 25 cents off per gallon on your first 5 fill-ups at the tank. Then you'll save 3 cents off per gallon every time you fill up after that until you hit premium status like me or Kevin, and you get 5 cents off per gallon every single time you fill up. It's so easy to sign up. You download a free app, you choose an email, you choose a password, and you're done. You just plug it right in there, that phone number at the gas tank, and the savings are right in front of you. So guys, if you're not doing it yet, if you haven't done it yet, you're just leaving money on the table. Do so now. Become a member of the inner circle at Circle K. It's so easy to sign up, like I said, and it is free as can be. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit circlek.com for details. And Kevin, I know I said that Circle K was the go to gas stations. I know I said that Gila River was the go of casinos, and those are both very true. But my personal goat, his name is Max.
So true.
And it's his birthday today.
Deborah says it there in the chat. Today's a special day. Happy birthday, Max.
It absolutely is a special day, and Max announced that it was, maybe his birthday on the D-Back show earlier, and he deserves all the plaudits in the world because that guy is just, I call him my GOAT. I mean it. He shows up. He has his awesome Rob Lowe NFL
It's so sweet.
Profile picture that just fires me up every time I see it, and just brings good vibes to the chat. So shout out, Max. Appreciate you, my guy, and happy birthday to you, sir. But yeah, Kevin, we're going to be talking to Becky Burke here in just a few short minutes. Are you excited?
I'm super stoked to talk about all that is Big 12 women's basketball.
Or is women's basketball just is it dead to you?
Oh, man. The WNBA Finals last night, I'm not going to lie, A'ja Wilson did rip my heart out of my chest on live television, but my heart's back in my chest. We got Becky Burke on the pod today, so that is what matters most. However, the Mercury being down 0-3 really, really hurts. But I want to ask Becky Burke about her experience in the Mercury game as well, maybe to wrap up our interview later. And before we do get to Becky Burke, I wanted to answer a question from our guy Spalding here in the chat, who says, you think the likely inclement weather conditions benefits the Cougs more than it does the Wildcats? And we talked a little bit about this yesterday, Damon, but I think undeniably the inclement weather benefits BYU over Arizona. They're a much more prolific run team. They're tougher at the point of attack, and it feels like in a game where you're going to have to slow it down because of the weather, that does benefit BYU. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think in maybe just the sense of Bear is a better running quarterback than Noah that could potentially come into the fold, needing your QB to be a dual threat guy. I think Bear, despite not being as good as Noah, has taken better care of the football than Noah, which I think in the rain could also come into play. Turnover-worthy plays are much more likely to happen in the rain than in better weather conditions. So, yeah, I would say it probably semi benefits them. Also, these type of games like that, I think the winning on the margins is so important, right? And I think Sitake has the coaching advantage over Brennan as well. So, I think a rain game definitely benefits BYU, but I also don't think it counts Arizona out because Arizona has been consistent in running the football this season outside of the last game against Oklahoma State, in which it felt like Oklahoma State's game plan was very much like, we're just going to hope that they don't have it through the air and that we're going to stop the run and just hope that they misconnect a bunch of times. And obviously it didn't work out at all. But, I do think that Arizona can run the football effectively. So if it is a rain game, I think you lean on Ishmael Mahdi, you lean on Kedrick Reesano, and you lean on this offensive line, and you hopefully Seth Dagey has a well enough schemed out running game that Arizona has enough in the tank to win this one.
I agree with you. I don't think that it's
not doom and gloom.
Yeah, I don't think it's like an exclusion factor. I think it benefits the Cougs more than it does the Wildcats, but I don't think, like you said, that it rules out like an Arizona upset. I think that it helps BYU more than it helps Arizona, but it's not like a deciding factor in this one. It's an element, but it's not the only element to this one. Like you alluded to, Seth Dagey, he spoke to the idea that against Iowa State, right? He felt like his game plan was good. He felt like his preparation was good and that it was not, I will say, properly executed, right? I think there were a lot of moments where Seth Dagey felt like, this is not the game plan that I necessarily drew up, and the thought was so good. And I'm interested to see how he attacks this BYU defense, especially if there is inclement weather, right? Does that throw Seth Dagey's plan off of what he wanted to do anyway? I don't think so, because I think establishing the run game early has been big for Arizona so far this season. In fact, I think most times when they face troubles offensively is when they go away from the run game and they don't let it set up the pass game, and they primarily focus on, getting guys who really have not been able to create much separation open so far this season. So overall, I think the rain does help BYU more than it does Arizona, but it doesn't count Arizona out in this one by any means. Do we have any more on BYU before we start gearing up for Becky Burke interview?
I didn't personally. I know tomorrow we're going to have our guy Justin Spears on. He'll, of course, update us with all of the most recent injury information, as he is as locked in as anybody in and around this football program. And, of course, we'll get his official predictions prior to game time. Kevin and I will give our best bets tomorrow. So we're going to have a good time on the show. Kevin, what do you want to do about last week's best bets? That just popped in my head right now.
What happened?
You gave me your best bets. I didn't actually ever air them out on the show. I have proof that your bets are a thing that happened.
They were stinky.
But I didn't myself pick anything. So if I was to, I would have to go back retroactively and maybe with you decipher which games I would have bet on. For example, I'll put my hand up. I probably would have put Iowa State plus money in on one of those.
Yeah.
So Iowa State money line probably would have been a loss for me. We can do that, or we can just say, hey, Kevin.
We could do a bye week. Every team gets a bye week.
Kevin was not here. We're going to count it as a bye week. We're going to move on, and we're going to just pretend like that week never happened.
Yeah, I had some stinkers too in there. I don't know.
You?
I don't remember.
Let me check your bets.
Yeah, I don't remember which one that I put in there, but there was one that I was tracking throughout the weekend when I had a chance to look at some scores, and I was like, oh no.
Here we go. You had Texas Tech minus 11.5. Cash it.
Okay.
You had Kansas minus 4.5. I think they won that versus UCF by more points than that, didn't they?
I thought they won it by 4.
They won by 7. So you had a winning week, and then New Mexico money line. Did they lose that game?
Yeah, they did lose. That's the one I was tracking, and it kind of shaded my glasses when I was looking at the rest
only
of my
lost
bets.
by 7 too, and it was a money line dog. I mean, pretty good week for you, Kevin. I'm not gonna lie.
I thought my bets were stinky. And because of that, I kind of petitioned for the bye week. And now I feel like a big stupid idiot because I should have just checked what bets I had over the weekend and understood that I had a winning weekend. But that's okay. Practice makes perfect. And we got a nice little practice weekend in there.
He did pick Penn State spread. That's right. Kevin did Penn State minus 41.5, and they lost outright.
For certain.
I actually I didn't ever peep that bet, but in hindsight, I would have totally taken that.
Well, what was the initial line?
Let me see.
Also, UCLA. Penn State, who'd they play? The wedding took me out of everything.
UCLA.
And they lost.
UCLA got their first win of the season
against Penn State.
Against Penn State.
What?
Oh yeah.
What?
Minus 24.5, and I think everyone bet on Penn State because they were 24.5 seems kind of crazy, no? Feels like it should be way more than that with how bad UCLA is.
Surely this game doesn't go to overtime like we are on the AZ Wildcats podcast in preparation for our interview with Coach Becky Burke, who is joining us very shortly here on the AZ Wildcats pod. But yeah, like you said, Damon, ended up having a winning week there, unlike Penn State, despite my forgetful self not really giving myself the opportunity to bank another winning week in the record books. But that's okay.
Yeah, we will. We'll Kevin, we'll talk after the show. We'll update it, and tomorrow we'll make a decision on whether or not we want to count Kevin's bets and maybe find some bets that I would have lost on hypothetically and called them those my official picks for the weekend. But Kevin, you are right. We do have Arizona women's basketball head coach Becky Burke in the building on for the first time in a couple months here. Coach, we had you on probably about a month after you were brought on as head coach of the program. You've now had much more time to settle. Tucson is very much your home. How are things going in the old Pueblo? How is the greatest city on earth, as Kevin and I like to call it on this show, treating you, and how are you getting settled in as the more, I guess, settled coach of the women's program?
Well, what's up, boys? I appreciate you having me. If my voice is any indication of how things are going, we had a pretty dang good practice today, so I'm feeling good. I literally just walked off the court, but we're settled in. I feel like you said, this is home. This is the best city in the country. I will co-sign on that. But I'm feeling really good, excited, settled. Feeling like we finally got a chance to catch our breath. We were kind of in a wind tunnel there for like 6 months. So feels really, really good. And I'm glad it feels good because we're getting ready to start playing here before we know it. So I cannot believe it's come this fast.
We're going to talk about your experience in Tucson more during this interview, but you mentioned it there. Basketball is right around the corner. I have a countdown on my laptop every day that I look at. I talk about it with Damon. But part of the preseason process is sometimes preseason polls. And I think it's very fitting that we have you on the podcast today because the Big 12 released this preseason poll, having Arizona, your squad, listed at number 14 of a possible 16 in the preseason. And this was a tweet that I'm sure just was happenstance to come from your account this morning. And you said bet. I have to ask you, was that your honest reaction to that Big 12 preseason coaches poll, or were you just tweeting bet this morning just because you said bet?
I'm gonna say this. I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed. I'm not the brightest crayon in the box. But I didn't just finish coaching the 14th ranked team in the Big 12 for 3 hours today. That's not what I see out there. But do I understand preseason polls mean absolutely nothing? Yes. Am I a little bit petty? Will I keep receipts? Yes. But I also get it. Like I understand, no one knows anything about our team. Like where do you put us? No one knows anything about our players. Nobody knows anything about I just get it. Like I understand, and like I told our team, this means absolutely nothing, but if anything, it should be a little bit of motivation for us. But it's our job to let people know who we are because there is nothing out there that says who we are. We don't have enough. We've never been together. It's a brand new team. So this poll doesn't indicate who you are. It doesn't decide who you're going to be this year. We decide that on October 23rd in our first exhibition game when people finally get to see us play. So I'm excited for the opportunity. I think it put a little chip on people's shoulders in that locker room. I just live with a chip on my shoulder, so I love it. But we will be revisiting this conversation in a few months. I truly believe that.
Yeah, you definitely strike me as the type of person that will remember that type of disrespect. And we actually had a similar situation over the course of the preseason for football where Seth Dagey, offensive coordinator, was keeping track of all the quarterback top Big 12 quarterback lists that didn't have Noah Fafita near the top and just using it as extra motivation. So are you more along those lines of like, I am going to show my players this, or are you more like, we'll probably just, pretend like we didn't see that and, we're worried about what we got going on in our own building?
I'm sure it'll come out now and then, but we're worried about us. Like, if I'm going to tell them it means absolutely nothing, I can't really hold it over their head that they're ranked 14th in the league. Like, cause we're not, we know that, we know it has very little value to us, but we also know okay, that is said, it is out there. So let's use it as a little bit of motivation. So I think it'll come out from time to time here and there, but I think, there's not very much time where people are not going to know about us. I think it's going to be very clear and obvious here, in the next few weeks about the fact that we have a pretty competitive basketball team.
And fans did get their first taste of Arizona women's basketball under Becky Burke at the Red and Blue game showcase, event situation. I want to talk to you about that 3-point contest. Can you I know you were on the air doing a little bit of a live commentary thing, but mentally were you just taking notes yep, everybody now sees what I've been seeing with Miss Mickey Purdue?
Yeah, Mickey's a hooper. If that was in-game shooting, if that was okay, somebody's contesting you in your stuff, game shots, I mean, she would have blew it out of the water. I actually was curious to see how she was going to shoot because she's a gamer. She needs somebody in her grill. She needs a live rep in a game where she's coming off a stagger or a pin down. She needs those types of shots because that's the type of kid that she is. But I thought she had a really good showing. I was super proud of her. But I was thinking I want to be out there shooting. That's what I was thinking behind the monitor. So I wish maybe next year I'll get an invite to shoot against the men's team.
I mean, Gronk got out there and got some reps. I mean, I know it was what was it? Rob Gronkstone was the fake name,
yeah.
But maybe we could get I don't know, we could get a fake name for you, an alias, and get you out there on the court as well.
Now that I know people can get involved, I want to be in the 3-point shootout next year. Make a note. I'm going to tell the men too.
The crazy things I would do for a Tommy Lloyd versus Becky Burke shoot off. Oh my God. I need that injected into my veins, coach, because that would be electric content.
We'll make it happen.
Yeah, absolutely. But, you did get to experience that McHale crowd for the first time, in a I know not a competitive environment, but a more game style environment. What was that like? And what did you kind of learn about Arizona fans in that moment?
That was really impressive. I've only ever seen it empty, not just from my opinion. Like, our players were really, really wowed by that fan support, and it feels different when there is fans in the McHale Center. Like, it has a very, very different feel. So really, really, really gathered a ton of excitement for our players and for myself. I was very impressed. I've played in some big time buildings, and this is right up there.
And you kind of spoke to your playing experience there as well. Are the players excited to play on the Cactus Court as much as fans are excited to watch them play on the Cactus Court?
Yeah, I don't think it matters what color the court is. Our players are ready to rock. So, but it has been really cool. Like, I tell them all the time, like, people are so excited about this floor. You're out here every single day getting to practice on it. Like, don't take it for granted. This thing is legit. This thing is really cool. So I think the more people get to see it in person, it's like, it's one of the better courts in the country, because it's like we did something really cool, really special with it, but we didn't go over the top. Like, it's just enough. I think it's really tastefully done. Credit to like Desiree and everybody who kind of planned it and came up with those designs, because I think they picked a really good one.
That may or may not have voted multiple times to get the court that we wanted on the floor. Maybe creating a second Twitter account in the process to vote. Not saying that I did that or didn't, but Coach, did you get the court that you wanted out of the 4 options, or was it not really that important to you?
That's the one I picked. I like retweeted and picked that one. So I think I had a little extra pull, maybe. I think that's
I love it.
But I love it. I thought it turned out so well.
Yeah, it did turn out really well. And another thing that's turned out really well so far is your recruitment of players, as you've already gotten through the door with Arizona and getting into players' homes and doing all that good stuff. You talked to Talia Goodman of On3. It was a very good article done by On3 on your offseason thus far. Go check it out, about recruiting from the perspective of a recruit. And can you expand a little bit on that and what that means to you? Like, when you're thinking about your program from the mind of a recruit, what's going through your head?
It's really easy for me to do that because I was a really high-level recruit as a player, and I was a high-level recruit like not too long ago. So anything that we want to hit on in visits, anything we want to do in the recruiting process, like, I think about, okay, I'm the recruit. What do we need to hit on? What do we need to highlight? What do we need to talk about? What's important on these visits that we show them, that we capitalize on, what the environments we put them in, like all of it. So really just like putting my player hat on and like saying, okay, what would I want out of this visit? That's kind of how I approach those. And like I said, I'm lucky enough to have been on some high level recruiting visits where I know like what we need to do, what we need to say, how we need to do it. And it's worked out pretty well for us in this first class.
One thing that, you guys have done on these visits that I think is kind of unique to the program is like have the players come meet out at practice and the team kind of galvanize around them. What went into that, and how did you guys kind of come up with that idea?
Practice is the most important part of our visits. Like, they have to be on the floor watching us practice because it's different. Like, the energy, the attention to detail, the accountability, like, and I'll invite y'all too to come to watch us practice, because it's really like, you got to see if you can see yourself in this environment, because it's not for everybody. There's a standard here at Arizona, how we practice every single day. They need to see that. They need to understand the intensity. They need to really be in that environment. And the players that we've gotten committed are the ones that when they're sitting at practice on the sideline, I look over and they're clapping, they're talking, they're locked in as a recruit sitting on the sideline. And like, that's how I know, okay, that kid belongs in our program. You know what I mean? And then, there might be some recruits that come and, oh, heck no, I don't want anything to do with this. This is too much for me. And that's okay too, but let's figure that out on the front end. So practice is super important for them to be at, for them to see. I think it's the most important part about the visit.
And you also in that article mentioned like balancing, running a tight ship, having that standard, setting the standard, because obviously in your first year you're setting it and keeping it there. But you also balance that with trying to let players still like be themselves and play loose. How do you do that, especially as a first year coach with so many first time faces in the locker room?
Yeah, it's really hard. This is a year of culture building. This is a year of tone setting, standard setting, and it's like a 24/7 job. I'm not, like I've been saying, I'm not accepting certain things on Tuesdays and Thursdays and then Monday, Wednesdays, Fridays, trying to hold them to another standard other than that. Like, this is a 24/7 job in your first year to hold your players to the standard that you say is the standard of Arizona women's basketball now. I think there was a lot of things from a culture standpoint where, last year's team, maybe didn't live up to some things that they could have because, it's not the talent. When I look at last year's team, when I see the film, all that, there's a tremendous amount of talent. And this is teams all across the country. There's a tremendous amount of talent at times, but the culture, the standard, the expectations, the way that you hold them to those as a coach, as a staff is super, super, super important. So I'm not saying my way is the best way or my way is the only way, but it's the way that I've done it everywhere that I've been. And so I'm not changing it here at Arizona. There is a standard here. There are expectations here. Those are not changing. And I'm very clear with that. And I'm very upfront with that before they get here. And then they tell me they want it in the recruiting process. And then when you get here, you're going to get it. And so there's no mistaking. There's no misunderstanding. This program is not for everybody, and that's okay.
And then also we talked to Cindy Brunson a couple months back as well about what she noticed when she popped out for one of your practices for the first time and met you and saw the team and met some of the new players coming in. And one of her biggest takeaways were this team's not going to be outworked any night of the year, regardless of the opponent. They might lose the game, but they're never going to be outworked. And is that something that you, as a first-year coach with a lot of incoming transfer players, is winning on the margins like a huge key for you this season, making sure that no one outworks you on the small stuff this season?
Absolutely. We're going to play harder than everybody that comes into this building. There's no negotiation about that. We have to be the team that plays harder every single night because we don't have the luxuries on paper that some other teams do. We don't have the size. We don't have the length. We don't, some of these things that are out of our control this year. So we have to make up for it in other ways. There are categories we need to win. And playing hard is the biggest one. And so I'm really confident that you're going to see a team. We're going to be really, really proud of our effort every single night. And I think if you do that consistently and you can say, man, we played harder than them for 40 minutes, there's no questions asked. Generally, you're either in the game or you win it, So if we can do that on a nightly basis, which again is the standard that we hold them to every day in practice, so it's not just gonna be something we turn on when the ball is tipped off, then I feel like we have a chance every single night. But we're gonna have to play our butts off. We know we're at a disadvantage in a lot of different areas, but we know we can make up for it in a lot of different areas as well.
And then we'll get you out of here on this, Coach. I know you don't got all day. You attended a Mercury game when they played the Fever recently, and they're obviously in the WNBA Finals right now. Not the result that we Mercury fans might be hoping for through 3 games. But what was your experience tapping in with the Mercury, seeing the X Factor as well in person? And how can you kind of bottle that X Factor up and get it into McHale and guarantee that we have the best environment like we know we do?
Yeah, it was an incredible experience. I've actually been to a couple Mercury games in the past year, so it was really fun to get back in there and see Aerie and just a really, really cool environment, almost like a playoff-like environment. Here's what I will say, the environment in McHale this year is going to be indicated on what the product that we put on the floor. We're in complete control of our fan investment, our fan excitement, our fan attendance. We're in complete control of that. I understand that. And it's my job to make sure that stays high and stays excited and the level and expectation that our fans expect out of this program stays where it is. And so we're working really hard every day to make sure that this place is rocking, this place is packed, and everybody has a reason to stay excited about our program.
Now, Coach, I had one last thing for you, and I don't want to put my guy Kevin on the spot here.
What are we doing?
But you talk a lot about hard work. You talk a lot about, needing to put that extra effort in and just how hard you push your players, right?
I'm getting a call. I have to step away.
My guy Kevin tweeted about a month and a half back, should I work out every day until Arizona basketball season starts? And my coach, Becky Burke, quote tweeted him and said, yes, unequivocally yes. Yep. Now, Kevin has not held up his end of the bargain. And I'll, you know what? I'm going to put myself out there as well. I have been lazy as well, Coach. I have not been working out myself. I think that we need you to continue to get us back on the healthy grind of getting back into shape because we're not holding up our end of the bargain here.
Okay. If you want accountability, I'm your girl. So mark it today. I'm going to be on y'all. I'm going to be on you. If you say something, you got to do it. Be about your word. Because I haven't checked in. That's on me. I haven't checked in. But I also will say I've had an open invite to come over to the Becky Burke Garage Home Gym. Nobody's hit me up on that either. So
a Burke out.
I will say that we for sure will do that, Coach. We'll go over there and we'll let you kick our ass for about an hour straight doing some CrossFit workouts and probably get some audio of us maybe in the bushes about 20 feet over in the video. But that sounds like a hell of a good time.
Let's do it. And I'm going to be on you guys. You asked for it. So here we go.
I love it.
Thanks, Coach.
That's what we're trying to do. Becky Burke, now our personal coach here on the PHNX Wildcats show. But we appreciate you, Coach, for hopping on with us on the AZ Wildcats podcast, and we will be looking forward to the next time.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you.
That, of course, is Arizona women's basketball head coach Becky Burke, gearing up for her first season here.
And her first season of personally training these two guys.
Absolutely. First season of being a personal trainer as well. And Kevin, I knew I was going to come at you and call you out in front of everybody, but I also knew that I had to include myself in it as well because, listen, this is accountability. I haven't been going to the gym, just getting my grind session, and so hand up. We both need to be better, and we will be for Coach Burke. But yeah, that was a fun interview. We are excited for the women's basketball season to start up. To fill that basketball-sized hole in our heart that will be left by the Mercury, sadly, in a couple days.
Hey, gentlewoman's sweep. We're getting one. We're getting maybe
love that. Gentlewoman's sweep.
I think that might be a Shane Diefenbach convention, but yeah, a gentlewoman's sweep.
That does sound like a Shane. That's a Shaneism for sure. Anything from that interview, Kevin, you wanted to talk about in particular before we got out of here?
I do have some takeaways, but I'll save a lot of them for tomorrow. We'll talk a little bit about them, or at some point here in the future. But I think my biggest takeaway is that they're not going to be outworked on the margins. I think Cindy Brunson's biggest takeaway is, I think, my biggest takeaway as well from talking to Becky Burke, because they're not going to be outworked. They're not going to be out-efforted any given night. And one thing you're not going to hopefully have as a takeaway for any of these games is, Arizona got outworked tonight. It feels like they could have been a better team if they just worked. No, that's not going to be the basketball that's played under Becky Burke. I think also, the understanding that fan support is directly tied to on-court performance is interesting. Because I actually think that Arizona is unique in the sense that there is a lot of built-in fans. I think a lot of fans that have I'll say like transferred with Becky Burke from the Adia Barnes era, and they're supporting Burke because that's the new coach of the team that I love so much. So I think it's interesting that Burke is not taking that for granted, because I think Coach has been shown an incredible amount of love from the city of Tucson so far in the brief amount of time that she's been here. But understanding that that's not guaranteed, right? You've been given a lot of goodwill, but now what are you going to do with it on the basketball court? Because we haven't seen that yet, right? It's been a whole lot of me praising Becky Burke's offseason, but then countering that by saying, I know we haven't seen any ball yet, but, so I think that's important, that Becky Burke and the team understands, like, we're getting a lot of love, but it's not because we've done anything. It's because they love us and they love this program, and we have to go pay them back for that on the court. Yeah,
I think that's a good takeaway for sure. And to compound on top of that, I love that she says the quiet parts out loud too. I am very appreciative of someone that attacks something head on, and there was no disrespect intended whatsoever, and none given if you are a mature adult. But it was, I think it's interesting to hear a coach come out and be like, last year's roster was talented, but they didn't like each other. Like they were not connected. And I feel like, that's a big point of emphasis this offseason is we're going to build a team culture where, these girls and these women love playing together. Right. And are truly a team, not just, a group of really talented individuals. So that part of things I thought was very candid, very open, and I very much enjoyed that aspect of the interview. But Becky's electric as always. I mean, not sure that Becky's never not been electric when you put a microphone in front of her face. So we appreciate Coach Burke for hopping on our, of course, the personal trainer of the AZ Wildcats podcast from here on forth. And Kevin, we got to be accountable now.
We do. I told you pre-show that in my effort to couch any criticism coming from Coach, because I talked to our guy SPG from the Sons of Mercury pod last night about hey, I haven't done this thing that I said I might do, but I said I would do, and he was like, well, she's not going to go for any of these reasonings as to why. She's a coach. She's not going to go for none of that. Yep. And I said, you know what, Steven? You're right. I will at least get physically active, start a streak of one. And that's what I did. This morning I walked the dog quite a bit, got a nice long walk in, got a sweat in, nice shower, felt good, felt limber. You know what I mean? Maybe tomorrow we step it up and go to the gym. Maybe hit a cardio, maybe hit a sauna. Who knows? But now I have to. It's on the air. It's not even on Twitter now. It's on this pod. It's Becky Burke is saying that she's going to be tapping in with our socials apparently to make sure we're on track. So
that's why I did it. Honestly, I did it to put us in the corner of all corners.
To make us better.
we genuinely have to go to the gym now, because if not, coach is going to think less of us. And that actually
can't have that.
Disappointing Becky Burke is actually one of my biggest no-nos in all of life.
Because one thing we haven't seen yet is like Coach Burke.
Oh,
we've spoken to Becky Burke multiple times. We've gotten Becky Burke on Twitter to interact with us. Coach Burke. Like, and I say this having information from that On3 article. I'm not just talking out my butt. Like, parent version of Becky Burke has been very nice to us. But coach version of Becky Burke, because in that article she did say that like having a kid has made her like, I'll say it like had made her soft in a good way, like has made her more understanding and all this and that and whatever. But before then, and I don't want to see the before then. So let's stay on track. Let's go to the gym and let's get fit.
Yeah, let's do it. What a great way to conclude that interview, Kevin. We're gonna bring on Justin Spears tomorrow as part of our coverage in lead up to BYU versus Arizona, and talk about his game predictions, injury updates, all that and more, keys to the game ahead of Arizona versus BYU on Saturday. Kickoff time is, Kevin?
5 p.m. right now, but as Spears alluded to on Twitter, it might get moved up tomorrow or adjusted depending upon what the Big 12 thinks with the weather. So keep your eyes peeled on our Twitter, PHNX_Wildcats, for any weather reports in your area.
Absolutely. And of course, we will be live tomorrow at 2 p.m. So make sure that you guys are there for that one. And of course, like this video, subscribe to the channel, rate and review on your favorite podcasting platform, and follow us and the show. Follow me at Damon Dog, follow Kevin at Kevo Posts, and follow us at PHNX_Wildcats on all social except for TikTok, where we're at AZ Wildcats Pod. Kevin, we're going to be rolling out some really cool Arizona men's basketball media day content on the TikTok. So make sure that you guys are following on TikTok if that's your groove.
TikTok exclusive for the most part.
TikTok exclusives. Going to be some really cool stuff going up on over there. We got each person's favorite dance move headed your way. So if that's not going to get you to follow our TikTok, I don't know what actually the hell danced? It is. Yeah. How about Koa Pete doing a little bit of this?
Ooh, or Dwayne Aristode hitting a little footwork that you can't see that hitting under the desk.
Is worthy of a follow in and of itself. So head on over to AZ Wildcats Pod on TikTok. Give us a follow. Follow us at PHNX_Wildcats on everything else. Follow Kevin at Kevo Post. Follow me at Damon Dog. And of course, we'll be back on a Friday at 2 p.m. Appreciate everybody for being here. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and we'll catch you next time. Happy birthday, Max.
Happy birthday.
Roberto, I didn't know if this is new or not, but I appreciate you being a supporting club member, sir. And until next time, peace out, bear down.
And go Cats. I guess I'll see you in the gym for a Burke out.
We all silly like the mayor.